we have Mr. Archie Fielding. He is the Technical and Enablement Lead in Enterprise Company. He has a very interesting end-to-end value proposition around the retail sector. And without much ado, I'm going to invite Archie to come on air and share with you his presentation. Thank you very much. Archie, over to you.
Thank you, Oliver, and thank you, David, for your presentation now. Okay, so you should all be able to see that okay. So, hi everyone. As mentioned already, my name is Archie. I've been stationed out in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia for a few years now with Enterprise. Before everything kicked off with Corona, I was in Singapore about once a week, but obviously that's changed now. So I'm itching at the chance to getting back to Singapore soon and seeing some of you in the flesh. But in any case, to give a bit of background on Enterprise before I start, Enterprise is a company based originally out of Dublin, Ireland, and it was originally designed as an add-on to SAP. SAP B1, if any of you don't know, is an ERP platform. So Enterprise was originally designed to sit on top of that, and it's gone on from that to focus more on those who don't necessarily need to have SAP. You can use it standalone, and we do have a particular focus on retail as well. And from in that, it's integrating specifically your in-store to a backend. So maybe it's in-store in a shop, or maybe it is online e-commerce selling. The key looking in here is taking those and seeing how we can connect those and integrate them to a backend system, because there's a lot of automation that we can do around that. Traditionally, it's been very manual to take your sales data, be it from a POS or from written sales, and enter it financially into Excel or another platform. So we're really focusing on easing some of those tasks and creating a very seamless transition between them. So ERP covers a lot of ground, so we want to focus particularly on AI today. So what can we hone in on? I've already mentioned looking at in-store and e-commerce online, how we can take those transactions and link them in, and what benefits can we really get from that? You know, we can link up things like our inventory, so we can have automatic tracking. Our sales pipeline becomes key. We can view our data live as it goes in. I'll go on as we go through to see some of the additional features that you'll be able to get a hold of, such as an automated bank feed, where maybe you could view your live transactions coming in from your bank account and reconcile them directly against what is in your system, what has come through your POS. No more manual reconciliation, which I'm sure a lot of you will be very happy to hear. A few other integrations that people in Singapore will be aware of, things like Pay Now and QR payments for live taking of collections, and how this all sort of tracks in with AI and machine learning along the way. Okay, so starting with in-store. Traditionally, one of the biggest problems in-store has been the recorded transactions, which can be fine to start with. You have a POS machine, or maybe you're noticing them down on paper, and it's how this then feeds in and updates things like our inventory, how it goes back to our finances as well, and how we report on that. So one of the great things about integrating with sort of an ERP system such as this is all of that integration is just done for you. There's an upload either daily or manually from the POS system or via Excel uploads into the system, and this can be automatic. And this is going to record all transactional data daily. So just after setup and flick of a switch, you're going to be able to see invoices daily. You're going to be able to report financially on them immediately. So not only are the invoices being created one by one, you're also having that payment creation. It's going to tag the payment method against it. So you're going to get the breakdown of things like cash sales versus bank sales. And that will feed immediately onto the financial side too. So you're going to be able to run things like your profit and loss, your balance sheet, all of this seamlessly flowing through. So that's the automation side upon the in-store transactions. It's a similar setup for e-commerce. So online sales, especially in the sort of world that we live in at the moment, everyone is moving more and more towards pushing for online. Everyone is now a master of working from home and people generally are doing their shopping online. We have very similar integrations here. Specifically, I'm going to talk about Shopify, one of the most popular e-commerce websites, but this could really be similar for any of the e-commerce platforms. So it's a direct link from here to your ERP system, and this is going to allow the transactions to be taken online. Shopify standalone or any other e-commerce platform will, yes, allow you to take these transactions, but there's no reconciliation of your inventory, there's no financial data. You're still going to have to pull that out yourself and deal with it as you would. So an integration such as this is going to allow you to really make the most of all that data flowing through. You're going to be able to run an approval procedure on the documents that are going through. So, sales goes across, it's confirmed, you can approve it pushing into your finance system. And then we're looking at, similar to the previous slide of in sales, you've got automatic invoice creation, the payment is going to be recorded automatically, and then the financial side will update too. And all of this is tracking against a chart of accounts. You have your journal entries that are being created for these, all happening automatically. So it's really moving away from the old manual side of doing things. And even with some of the modern platforms where you can record things like these finances, there's often not a link to your inventory. There's often not a link to anything in store or online. So that's another one of the key benefits here. And I did want to also talk about a little bit about inventory management too. I've spoken on it as well, because one of the key things and big problems that come with inventory management, especially in the retail sector, is keeping our inventory levels up to date. When we make sales in the store, we need to reconcile those against the transactions that we're recording, and we need to reconcile those against the physical inventory that we're holding. It can be a very tenuous task if we're doing these manually and we don't have these things intrinsically linked. So if our POS system is not linked to our inventory listing, then it's going to make our life a lot more difficult. So automatic stock movement, if we're talking about this automation before transactions come through the POS, or if they did come through from an e-commerce platform, you're going to see your stock adjust automatically in the system. If a customer comes in and buys X amount of goods, you're going to see X amounts of goods leave your inventory system on the ERP side. And similar for purchase too, you're going to see them rise, and you can keep a balance that way. And then reconciliation becomes a lot easier. It's all in one place, and you can compare this directly against what you have in store. Tracking items comes much easier too, and taking inventory of stocks. There's even ability to do a little bit of manufacturing on the side, but that might not be quite as relevant, but in any case. So talking now about the reporting for our inventory, because all of this is feeding together, and similarly to how we're able to report on things like our finances, we're able to do a similar thing on our inventory. So just as a snapshot, because this data is live, we can run a valuation of our inventory and get it according to one of many price lists that you may run for your values. So sales price, for example, to see an example of how much we can potentially sell our currently held inventory for, or the purchase price that we bought it for, or indeed any other price list that you maintain. Reporting on stock in terms of what you have available, what is currently on, let's say, order. If you have inventory that is come through an e-commerce platform, for example, you still technically hold it. It hasn't been delivered out yet, but it is no longer available, right? Because a customer has indeed purchased that. So the stock reporting allows you to have a much clearer view on your inventory, see what is available and what isn't, what's committed and what is available for selling. And as well as that, just general pricing calculations on your stock. So it's just coming into your inventory and just being able to see what is the value, what have I taken. You've bought for X amount, you've maybe bought them for different values, and how much is the potential worth of what we're holding here. And it's really just about the integration between this and whatever is happening in store. So rest assured that there's no reconciling between the two. All of that information is flowing in between a POS system or an online resource for transactions. And now a little bit on collections and reconciling. So speaking specifically on collections to start with, this can often happen either in store or it can happen traveling to meet a customer. Collections can become an issue when a lot of cash is held at once. If there's a lot of collections going on, it's going to build up, and that can be a bit of a liability down the line. So one of the areas I wanted to talk about in the collection side of connecting with an ERP is the potential to do collections via Pay Now. Everyone will be aware of going into a hawker center and just being able to take a snapshot of the QR code to pay for your meal. And this works in very much the same way. Instead of taking a collection in cash, the buyer would be able to scan a dynamic QR code which has all the information inside, such as your bank details, it has the value, and it would process the transaction. You would live get an update that it has gone through. And this is a little different to the example in the hawker center, because in a hawker, you go in and you scan one QR code and you have to enter the price to confirm it. In this case, I'm talking about dynamic QR codes, so you can have an invoice that will automatically generate one of these QR codes. That is going to be unique for every single payment transaction that you're taking for. It's going to allow you to have the details stored in that QR code, and when it pushes into the system, it's going to contain the price, it's going to contain the customer who's purchased it from, it's going to contain the bank account of yours that it's going into, and it's going to contain the reference that is on that bank transfer. Some of you may be realizing already where I'm kind of getting to this, and it comes onto the reconciliation stage. Reconciliation is something that everyone has to do day to day. It's a great annoyance. Normally you're taking all your payments and your system, and you have to go into your bank account and track down all those payments and make sure we haven't had any bank charges. You have to locate the ones together, match the transactions up, and then at the end you're doing a reconciliation to write off any differences. With all of this information about collecting, with the reference being included, this dynamic QR code, the bank transaction will have its own reference, and then in your system it will have that same reference too from that QR code. So reconciliation becomes completely automatic. If you're doing the taking of all of your payments this way, they will all be done this way, and you can run a reconciliation in such an ERP system, and it's going to allow you to just reconcile with a click of a button. You're not going to have to scroll through anymore, check out your bank account on one side and check out the system on the other. It's going to match all these up automatically, because you have the bank feed data flowing into such an ERP system, and it's automatically matching them. It uses AI. We use also machine learning for matching these up together, so it gets cleverer the more you do it. And then you have the direct comparison at the end. So it all sort of flows through together, and ultimately it's a time saver. This is all AI looking at it from a slightly different perspective, I think, but one that's still just as important for retail, because you're still needing to take all of these transactions and you're still needing to run them back into the back end, and you want to make sure that it's recording correctly, and you want to be feel safe in the fact that your data is secure in that way. And that's really what we're sort of aiming to do here. So as far as my slides go, that's as much as I wanted to show you today. So thanks for tuning in. Ever-changing world really at the moment with COVID and everything that's going on. I think people are realizing more than ever how important it is to get online and move into the cloud. Everyone is an expert at working from home at the moment. I know I am. I'm sure a lot of you are too. So I hope that has been beneficial. You'll be able to see some of the things that we're aiming to do in bringing AI into this communication between your storefront or online store and then your back-end financial and inventory records. So thanks for listening.
Thank you very much, Archie. That's a wonderful piece of news on how the back-end can be integrated together. And I like the idea of the dynamic QR code, where you are able to know precisely what amount we're paying without a human intervention. So once again, thank you very much for that presentation.